Hi, it's Dr. Steve from Misericordia University, and welcome to Media Analysis. This video represents instruction as part of EDU553, a graduate course in the Principles of Instructional Design. In this video, let's consider media analysis, which is one step in instructional design. What is media analysis? And then let's examine some popular instructional tools and platforms that could possibly be used as a medium to deliver instruction. And then we'll round out by looking at our remote activities for this week's class. Now you've identified an instructional goal for your training product. And from that goal, you can now specify learning objectives. By the way, you've also performed a needs analysis to help inform that instructional goal and those objectives. And you've also done a learner analysis so you can make different educational decisions to go into and inform this instructional product. One of those decisions that needs to be made is which media are going to be appropriate to use in your instructional product. In other words, how are you going to deliver instruction? You've already performed the learner analysis and you've seen what are the strengths, what are the preferences and the weaknesses and the problems that learners can have. Look at that and then consider what kind of technology are you going to use to develop your instructional product. Think about how you're going to communicate with the learners, whether they're in a school or if they're in a company. What kind of performance support might you need to give? How about testing and assessment? How are you going to conduct that? How are you going to distribute the training? And one of the main factors is, what are the technological capabilities of the equipment of and the expertise of who the participants are going to be. Depending who the audience for your training is going to be, whether it's in a school setting, whether it's adult learners in a college, so it's still an educational setting, whether it's a corporate setting, or whether it's a military setting, think about these types of factors when you're considering the media selection. Does the content require the learners to be interactive in some way? How do you deal with that? What kind of media will be appropriate to support that? Is collaborative learning something that really should happen here for this content, or based on these learners and the best ways that they can learn, the most effective? Does the audience require motivation? Do they require convenience? So are they going to do this in the school or the company? Are they going to do it away from school or company? Does the audience have access to expertise? Or are they going to need support? Are they going to need help? Are you going to provide something that they can use without needing extra help? Because maybe they won't have access to that. If it's a corporate setting, think about the travel expense. Do they have to travel somewhere to actually participate in this training? Or would it be better to break down those barriers and deliver something that can be distributed to learners without travel being required? Does the designer's choice of technological medium affect learning? According to Moreno and Mayer, they suggest two different schools of thought. The first is that yes, absolutely, the choice of the medium does affect learning. And the second school of thought is it doesn't matter what medium is chosen. What counts is how the instructional designer has designed instruction. Where do you fall on this scale? If you're like me, chances are you see merit in both sides, and you're probably somewhere in the middle. I believe that the choice of the medium does affect learning. It can excite learners. It can motivate learners. And some newer technologies have more opportunities to make learning even more effective. But at the same time, it ultimately doesn't matter what kind of technological tool or tools you use. If the instruction is not designed in a good, robust way, and if it does not promote cognitive processing during learning, it doesn't matter what kind of tools you use. So where do you fall on here? Maybe you're somewhere middle of the road. Maybe you see merit in both thoughts. If you adopt the middle of the road view, where you see merit in both sides of that argument, then let's take a look at different media and different cognitive principles that, that can affect learning through each of these media. The first cognitive principle, based on the work of Moreno, that we're going to consider is modality. In other words, different ways of presenting information. The principle is that students learn better from words and graphics when the words are spoken rather than printed. Now, we're not talking about like a typical PowerPoint slide where there'd be one like just illustrative graphic on that slide. We're talking about using some type of graphic representation where the students really need to analyze the graphic because that's part of the content. It will be derived from that graphic. Now, why is this the case, that it's better when the words would be spoken? Well, because of the brain and the way it works, the spoken words will be processed in the auditory channel. And now that opens up the visual channel to only have to deal with that graphic. Now, if you didn't do the auditory piece, then the visual channel has to focus on two things: the text and analyzing the graphic, and cognitively that tends to bog down the learner. A second cognitive principle is verbal redundancy. In other words, having graphics, having text on the screen, and then reading the text on the screen as part of the educational product. Why is this a problem? Well, because you've got words, you've got graphics, that's all happening visually, and then the text is being read also. See, the problem here is that the visual channel in the brain is processing the words and the graphics. Refer back to the first cognitive principle, just read the text and don't place it on the screen if you have a heavy graphic that needs to be analyzed by the learners. Another cognitive principle is coherence. Students learn better when extraneous material, in other words, material that is not really essential, they're extra details, but they're not really essential to learning this particular skill or concept, if you take them out of that lesson and not include them in. Why? Well, because that extra material competes with the relevant material, the important material, and it disrupts the organizational process cognitively of the learners. So just stick to the main concepts and leave out those extra details that can be confounders and confusers. Another cognitive principle deals with multimedia. Students learn better when there are words and graphics to illustrate those words. So now we go back to the concept of like a PowerPoint slide, and we see some text on that slide, and then we also include a graphic. The graphic won't be a heavy graphic that's like a chart and really has to be analyzed, but it's something that illustrates what that text is talking about. That actually improves learning and understanding of content. And the reason for that is those relevant graphics, when they're added to the words, the learners now see the connection between those materials, and that positively promotes them constructing a better mental model. Another cognitive principle deals with personalization of the presentation of the content. Students learn better when the explanations are personalized rather than non-personalized. That's why in the instructional design process, we really analyze the learners well, because we want to personalize. We want to make the material as relevant to the learners as we can, because personalized messages heighten students' attention. Learning is more likely to occur because it relates to them and they can relate to that material. Moreno describes the next principle as guidance. And by that, Moreno means somebody who's a novice at that content. They learn better when they're given principle-based explanations. In other words, when the principles behind what's being learned are made overt, they learn better in that situation than presenting all the information and then asking the learner, who is new to this content, to infer the principles by themselves. And why? Well, it has to do with the schemas. If you're new at a particular content, you need more concrete learning, and your schemas are not highly developed yet, and you can't select and organize materials and kind of figure all that out on your own and build it. You need a structure on which to build this learning. The principle of interactivity is not only important, but it's critical to learning, especially learning in a technologically facilitated environment. Students learn better by manipulating, by doing something, by being actively involved in the learning rather than just being passive observers. And why? Well, constructivism says that learners take an active role in their own understanding of content, and they have to actively process it. And being interactive with the content makes that happen. The last cognitive principle is reflection. And this means that students learn better when they're given opportunities to reflect during and right after learning has taken place, so that they can make more meaning and associate that deeper in their schemas and have a better understanding of things. Having examined some of the elements to look for in different media, and having mentioned that it's important to connect what we learned about the learners in our learner analysis with these considerations, let's now consider different platforms that we could possibly use to deliver technologically facilitated training. There are many different platforms that a designer can choose to deliver multimedia-based training. A designer could select audio only, like a podcast. A designer could choose asynchronous video, such as the videos we find on YouTube and similar sites. A designer could choose synchronous video, such as used in the product Zoom, where it's live, but it's still video. We could use hands-on simulation, or it could be a combination of face-to-face training, traditional training, but also with a technological component. Let's consider some of these different platforms. To create an audio-only presentation, like an audio podcast, there are many apps and computer programs you can find to do the audio creation and also editing. In fact, there are so many apps that will allow you to record. You probably have them right on your phone, even if you've never really looked for them. The key here is not the capture of the audio, but rather the editing of the audio. One program that is really useful, and it's been around for a long time, and it's very robust and very respected, it's called Audacity. And this is free, open source recording and editing software. Let's take a look at Audacity. Here I am in Audacity. It's easy to record and capture audio. In this app, I can use the menus to import a sound, or I can simply hit the record button to do it. The hard part is, how do you edit it and clean it up? Let me play this short clip, and you'll notice a couple of errors in here, and we're going to want to clean them up a little bit. So let me play this for you. Big gap here in the beginning.
Hi, this is Dr. Steve from Misericordia University.
Another gap.
And I am going to lead us in training today.
And then a little clearing of the throat or a cough. So let me start off by editing. Here I have the selection tool, the I-beam. I'm going to select, and I'm going to hit the delete key. So now I've just deleted that. I see another gap going on here. Let me delete this with the delete key. Now I think this was the cough right here. So let me play it. Let's see. It definitely is. So let me take that, and I'll take it close to the next part. Hit delete. Let me take it back, and let's play it one more time.
Hi, this is Dr. Steve from Misericordia University, and I am going to lead.
Okay, now I have a little extra in there. So as you can see, I can simply go in, highlight that extra part, take it out, and then we'll have a nice, clean audio.
I am going to lead us in training today.
As if those mistakes never occurred. A designer can certainly choose video as a delivery mechanism for training. How does one edit video? You might have used an app like iMovie, and that's representative of many, many video apps that are available. If you like Audacity, Blender is a similar product, but for video. It's free, it's open source, and it works very well. If you want to go more high-end, and this will cost a little bit of money, but it's a very, very effective program. It's called Camtasia, and it's available from TechSmith. Let me just do a very quick overview, just a little taste of what Camtasia can do. Here I am in Camtasia. Now, if you like the looks of and the functioning of Audacity in audio, you're going to love Camtasia. It's the equivalent, but with video. I'm going to start by dragging in from my media bin. I've already downloaded several files that I want to use. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to scale this up a little bit so we can see it better to 100%. And then I'm going to drag my video in, but I'm also going to drag in an audio. So I'm going to take my audio. So just like word processing, I just pick it up, drag it in. Let me show you what I'm doing.
Hi, this is Dr. Steve.
So here I have my music that I created, and I'm now going to simply drag, how nifty is this, up to here so that these two elements will work together. So make sure we have them at the same place. And now when it goes off, I'm going to drag the video, which is the actual tutorial that I'm going to do here. So that's going to come in. And then I am going to, I could drag it up to here. I'll keep both of the visual parts in the same track. And now I'm going to go to transitions. I can just give you a little preview here. I'm going to take this fade, and I'm going to put it right in between here so I can fade it in and fade it out. Let's get a little idea as to how this looks.
Hi, this is Dr. Steve from Misericordia University. Welcome to this video technology tutorial. Now I'm going to...
And then it's going to transfer right into the other video. Now, ultimately, I can also play with this sound so that the two levels of sound will be similar. And then I'm going to render this and save it as a video. If you are considering using video as your delivery system, think about maybe incorporating a video platform that will allow you to make your videos interactive by allowing you to embed questions in the middle of the video so that students have to pause and respond to those questions and reflect on what they've already learned. Two such platforms are Play Pose It and Edpuzzle. We'll say more about that at our next class. Another category of video is screencasting. Screencasting involves getting something on a screen on a device, whether it's a computer or a mobile device, and then capturing what's going on that screen. You can use apps like Screencast-O-Matic, a website that is very powerful and very popular with many teachers. EDU553, which feels like a whiteboard in which you can capture and draw and do various things, and also, of course, capture audio in all of these apps. And also Explain EDU. Let's take just a quick preview of Explain EDU. On my iPad, I'm entering Explain EDU. I'm going to open a project that I've already worked on. If you notice in the lower right-hand corner, it kind of feels like PowerPoint in that I can advance between different slides. And there are, of course, a toolbar with various standard tools. Here are a couple of interesting things, some extras you can do with this screen recording app. Here I'm going to click right now into this browser, and you'll find that the browser is live. Then if I click outside of the browser, then I can use different tools. For example, I can use this tool to highlight various elements as I walk the students through it. And I can have all of these different arrows and various tools that I can use. Also pointing fingers and, of course, text boxes and so on. But on the bottom, you'll notice that I can also click on that red button that allows me to record, and whatever I'm doing on the screen, it will record for me and will become part of my presentation. Another very powerful tool that you can use to deliver instruction is PowerPoint. The nice thing about using PowerPoint is that most teachers are already familiar with using it, so it doesn't take a lot of preparation to transform a presentation into a video or other type of delivery mechanism. You can use PowerPoint in two ways. The first is a slideshow with narration. To do this, you would take a standard PowerPoint and develop it as you usually would, and then navigate in the menus to Slideshow, Record Slideshow, and then speak and use PowerPoint as you normally would, and everything will be recorded. When you're completed, convert this to a video by selecting File, Save As, and then specify MPEG Video. A second way to use PowerPoint is what I term the PowerCast. A PowerCast involves preparing a PowerPoint, but make it robust. Prepare visual, text, audio. You can put action buttons or links to documents or files, to websites, to web-based tools, and basically you glue all of these resources together in a PowerPoint file. Now, to make this a self-paced learning activity, add navigation buttons, like left and right buttons, to the bottom of each slide to allow learners to navigate through the application. Now, as you know, typically in PowerPoint, you would click and then you would automatically navigate to the next slide. But we'll turn off that standard click navigation by going to the menus and selecting Slideshow, Set up Slideshow, and then further select Browsed at a Kiosk. When you do this, the learner will no longer just click and advance, but rather they'll click on the navigation buttons you have provided, and further, they can take their time through the presentation and they can click on those action buttons and links and other tools and gain more resources rather than just watching a video. Yet another way to deliver training would be through a web page. When you create a web page, you could prepare multimedia material and glue, so to speak, all of these resources together on that web page. For example, you could have links to video, or you could have embedded video right on the face of the web page. And then you could also provide different links to assessments. You could provide links to other interactive tools and resources to get the learner very actively involved and engaged as active learners. You could create a web page like this on Google Sites. You could go to places like Weebly.com or many other sites that host web pages for free, and they also support web page creation. As we round out this video, when you're selecting a platform to deliver instruction, consider looking at the learners. What is the appropriate either single medium or mix of media to use? What media match their learning styles or preferences? Which media are just practical? Consider the ability for those learners to access those media and to be able to use that level of technology. Consider the content. What medium or mix of media will effectively support learning of this content? Further, consider the level of interactivity that that platform or that mix of media will provide. For example, can interactivity or active learning techniques, such as embedding questions in the instruction, be included through this medium? Remember the cognitive principle of interactivity. And also, can opportunities for rehearsal and practice of this material be included in instruction that's delivered through this medium? Remember Merrill's Principles of Learning. We'll take a better examination of interactivity at our next class. And finally, when you're selecting a platform or a medium, consider, does the platform support your addressing the principles of cognitive theory as described by Moreno? Again, we'll take that up at our next class, and these items give you a preview of what we'll be doing next week. Let's wrap up this week's video and class by considering our remote activities. This week we'll have 4 activities. The first one is a wiki that deals with the analysis of platforms and media for delivering instruction. In this week's class, we took a look at different types of media that you could use to deliver instruction and different platforms you could possibly use to develop those media. For example, we looked at audio only, and we looked at Audacity, and we said there's certainly other recording software apps. Video, and there are common video tools such as iMovie, and also on the high end, a program like Camtasia. And there's certainly other video apps available. Another medium is screencasting, and different platforms are Screencast-O-Matic, an app called Explain EDU, and an app called EDU553. Multimedia platforms such as PowerPoint, and PowerPoint you can use in 2 different ways to deliver instruction. You could create a slideshow with audio narration over it. You could also do powercasting with PowerPoint. Another way we looked at, or at least mentioned, was a web page. And you could use a web page to, so to speak, glue together all the different activities and instruction and use that as the platform to host your instruction. And you could certainly use Google Sites. You could use tools like Weebly.com, And there are many other web page creation tools and also hosting services where they will host your web page. For this activity, let's all select one of these platforms and media to consider. Let's take a look. Now, just based on what you know about these tools, or maybe you would want to do a little more research into the tool or the medium, let's answer these types of questions. When is this medium appropriate for the delivery of information? Can this medium be used to support addressing the principles of cognitive theory that we considered in this video? Could you utilize embedded questions or other opportunities for practice during instruction? What are the benefits or drawbacks for using this medium as an instructional delivery system? And the bottom line, will this medium be appropriate, will it be adequate, will it be sufficient for delivering a technologically facilitated training module to learners? And even more specifically, to your particular set of learners. Let's talk about these on the wiki. Our second activity will ultimately be a discussion online, and it's going to deal with using PowerPoint as a medium for instructional delivery. We talked about two different ways that you could use PowerPoint. We said you could use PowerPoint with audio narration, and you could also create a PowerCast that allows for interactivity so that the students can actually interact and participate with within the training tool rather than just watching it and listening to it. So I'm going to provide a PowerCast that deals with this so you could experience that and then have an opportunity to try out in that process some of the techniques that are talked about. Then let's participate in a discussion as to the effectiveness of using PowerPoint in instruction. As usual in a discussion, I'm going to provide some guiding questions. Keep in mind that these questions are designed to kind of spark the discussion, so not everybody has to deal with each of these questions, but the ideal is that throughout an entire discussion, we'll cover all of these questions. Again, PowerPoint can be used with narration or as a PowerCast. That's an interactive training tool. So consider these questions. What are the benefits or drawbacks of using this medium during instruction? What are the unique opportunities of using this medium? Can you utilize, again, embedded questions, opportunities for practice, opportunities for interactivity in this medium? How easy might it be to develop instruction in this medium? And also, if you are a classroom teacher or trainer at this point, could you possibly use this medium in your current classroom situation? Our third activity will be a discussion, as we have done the weeks before. Let's perfect our objectives, a team effort. As in previous weeks, let's use a discussion board to share a draft of your objectives. Then let's open the discussion up to peer suggestions. Please read the objectives submitted by the other designers and comment at least on the work of two others, and together let's all help sharpen and perfect our objectives. Participating in this activity effectively will you'll get full credit for doing this, and keep in mind the full assessment on your objectives, as with the other elements to be included in your high-level design document. They'll be assessed more fully when you submit the high-level design document. For our fourth activity, let's hold an online discussion in which we talk about selecting appropriate media for instructional delivery. Now let's do two things with this. The first objective here is we went through a lot of different aspects of media and what makes media appropriate in different situations and why you might use various media and so on. Let's process all of this and let's synthesize it and pull it together. As usual in our discussions, I'll provide some guiding questions. Don't feel that you individually have to answer every single question. However, by the time we finish the discussion, we will probably have hit on all of these areas. So the first thing is let's look at the pooling together. So some of the guiding questions involve like how can the choice of instructional medium be affected by various factors? And also we talked about the debate of media affects learning versus the method of teaching affects learning. Maybe you want to comment on where do you stand in regard to that debate. This next guiding question gets to the heart of the matter. What are the benefits or the drawbacks of various media for delivering instruction online? How does audio compare? How about asynchronous or synchronous video? Or doing something hands-on with students? Or maybe in your particular educational or training setting situation, maybe you want to utilize a combination of face-to-face and also technology-based at a distance. I said two purposes for this final activity. The second one is very personal here. For the instruction you are developing for your final project, which medium or combination of media would be the most appropriate and why? So let's apply it to your particular personal situation. By engaging in this discussion, we will have a better idea of, again, pulling all this information together. Now, don't forget, because it's a discussion, to make a robust discussion, after you make your initial post, do read the posts of others and plan on posting and in reply to the posts of 2 other people. Looking ahead, next week in class, we will consider the design of the actual instruction. We're going to consider following Gagne's model of instruction as a skeleton for designing our instruction. We'll look at incorporating interactivity to create an active learning experience for the students. Let's look at embedding items within instruction, providing feedback that's helpful and informative and constructive, and also we'll look at the pacing of instruction. In addition, we're starting to move toward the culmination of the class, which is finalizing the high-level design document with all the elements that we've created up to this point. And then let's push toward starting to develop our prototype. And that's what we'll do in our next class. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.